Hey guys, Ernie Baraga here. Going to do our first YouTube video tonight, so we'll see how it goes. Basically, we're going to do watch parts, kind of from beginning to end, except for casting in resin. I'll show you how I kind of put the watch faces together, and we'll go step by step, see what we think. Like I said, this will be the first video, so I'll move the camera here and kind of show you what my setup is. I've got a desk inside my spare bedroom that I've set up for casting. You know, I do labels, watch parts, all kind of tedious stuff that requires with the tube. I just sit here at night and spend 2 or 3 hours gluing stuff up. So kind of show you a little bit of tools that you need, at least what I use for making watch parts. Little tin snips that are hobby, you can get them at Hobby Lobby, any of your hobby stores. The main reason I use them, I'll show you, is this. I use the holes in these to get rid of gears. You need a dapping block, which is this here. That's what I used to bend the gears with. I got a small hammer from Harbor Freight. I use that when we bend the gears. And then for actual bending faces, I have 2 different sets of pliers. These are Delrin that I made and kind of curved it, and I use that to start bending the faces with. The Delrin doesn't scrape the faces. And then I have some wire bending pliers that gets it really tight. And I have blue painter's tape on there, and that's to keep from damaging the face as well. You also need a pair of, at least I do, tweezers. I got to use those to keep from getting glue all over my fingers. John David Jones probably knows a lot about the glue, but anyway. And then I use Flex CA from Classic. That's what I use to glue everything together. And then I have a couple dental picks, and I use these to dab the glue on when we go glue the hands on the faces. And then the major thing is you need a watch face, which this is what we're going to use tonight. Somebody asked us about the date and time, and I said I can show you kind of how I do it. And when we take it apart, you'll see how it works. And then you need a bunch of gears. I buy my gears on bulk on eBay, a place out of California. I have those, and then for a lot smaller parts, I have this container, and I've got them sorted by size, and I use that for a lot of the smaller parts. You can get that at Hobby Lobby as well. So basically, that's everything that I use to start with. And so tonight we'll do the barrel part with this face, and we're going to do it on a Junior Gent, or Junior Series. Now these are the tubes. I paint all my tubes. The paint I use a lot of automotive stuff. This is the paint that we use for that. It's made by Tamiya. It's just model car paint. I put a couple coats on it, then I put it in a dehydrator that I use for making deer jerky. I'll leave it in a dehydrator for a couple hours, and it bakes the tube, kind of like powder coating. So the other thing that I do, I put mine on a dowel rod. So as I'm working with it, I can set the dowel rod here, and as I'm working, I can just put piece by piece on here. It makes it easier for me. Alright, so we're going to take this face apart. This is what comes out of the watch. When you take it out of a watch, that's pretty much how it comes. And you need to get the hands off of it. So what I have, they make a pair of pliers that are designed to take those off. But I found late at night, depending on what's been going on, if I squeeze them, they shoot across the room, and then you never find the hands. So I have a little bit better way for me. I've got these, I guess they're watch screwdrivers. They're itty bitty. And then I'll take the face upside down and just kind of pry in between them. Let's see that. As you pry, it takes the back off, and now your hands are right there. So they're together. One thing you're going to want to do when you take the face off, it has these nipples, and unless you get them flush, they won't go flush with the tube. So that's what I use these for. And then take a little sanding strip, 220, and just make sure we get it flush. That one's flush, and then we'll get this one. Alright, so those are flush. Now, you see there's, once we got it apart, there's no numbers on it. The numbers are actually on a separate piece of the watch. So we'll take that apart. Yes, not trying to cooperate here. What's a major malfunction, pal? There we go. Damn. Most of the time they come off a whole lot easier than this. There we go. Alright, so as you get it apart, there's your ring with the numbers. And then if you want to do the days, the ring with the days. And basically you would just take a little bit of fingernail polish, like clear fingernail polish, and then put it on there and set it where you wanted it. If you wanted it on Friday, and then you just set the date, and then once you glued them, you would be good to go. We're not going to use those on this one, but so now, how do you bend the face? Like I said, I want to make sure that the face and the numbers are on the outside, and then make sure you're bending it correctly. And like I said, I start with these with the Delrin, and I just try to center it up, and this one's going to be a little tough. This one is some kind of plastic. Might not be able to use this one. We'll see. I said the whole time, just bending, bending, bending. And then, like I said, if you want to compare the bend, it's bent a little bit, but nowhere near enough to go around the tube. So from there, I'll take the other tool and then just gently caress it. Just a little pressure. Not much at all, just enough to bend it. And this will get it pretty close. The next step you got to get a little bit of muscles to do. And I'm no means am I an expert at these. This is just the way I do it. I know a whole lot of people do it differently, but this is the way I do it. And so from there, we test it on the tube and see how close it is. And it's snug. You see, it's very snug. And it's I don't glue mine. I get them to fit about like that, and then once the resin, I let it finish off with the resin. So now this is probably the hardest step for me. I hate putting the hands on them, but I think the watch looks unfinished if you don't put the hands on there. So a whole lot of people make watch pins. Harry Matthews, John David Jones, Brian Blome, Jim Pratt, Zach Higgins, and I'm sure there's a whole lot more that I'm forgetting. The guy that kind of taught me, his name was Mike Hirsch. He showed me a while back. Pretty good friend. He lives about an hour up the road, an hour and a half. And I spent a weekend at his place, just kind of watching how he did it. And this is pretty much an adaptation of that. So from here, I typically set it at 6 o'clock. Just because you don't have to bend the hands. But I'll take a dab of CA. And then I'll put it right there for 6 o'clock. And then I'll take the tweezers. Now on these, you can't really see it on here, but there is a certain way. It has a lip on one side that coincides with a hole here. So just make sure you got the lip straight. And then there's our first hand. It's 6 o'clock. Well, it's 6 something. So the second one, I said just take a little dab of CA, and then I'm going to run it straight up like the 12. Actually, I'm going to move it just a little to the right because it looks to be some kind of jewel right at 12 o'clock. Now this sucker here is itty bitty. And moment of truth. And bam-o. Now we have a face showing about 6:01, but it does have hands on it. Now comes the fun part. Pretty much rummage through your gears and figure out what you want to use. Now, if you buy them like I do, these gears here, come on, have a gear and a shaft on them. Let me see if I can hold that there. So you have to get the shaft out of there in order for the gear to go flush, and that's what I use these for. I'll stick it through the little hole there. Use the back of the tweezers and bam, push the shaft out. Well, that's another use I use for them. So we'll do a few of these and get a few gears out and get them ready. And like I said, there's no right or wrong way to make these. Make them how you want. Everybody's different. A lot of people like to use carbon fiber. I do use carbon fiber, but I'm a hot rod guy, so I like paint. I prefer to have a candy from House of Color or something that, you know, just kind of catches your eye. And like I said, all the paint I use is automotive. I am using liquid diamonds, which doesn't seem to have a problem with whatever paint you use. I've had no problem yet. I did have a little problem with Alumilite, but my main problem with Alumilite was moisture. So that's kind of why I switched over to liquid diamonds. Alright, so we got 6 or 7 gears here. And I on the Junior, on the Sierra, all of them, I like to use the closest one to bend them. And I just line them up, get my slugger out here, and just bam. So we got 6 bent gears. So from here, I'll just put a little dab of CA, and that's where our first gear is going to go. And our second gear. And I mean, once you know, bend 6 or 7 and glue 6 or 7, or bend them all at once. You know, it doesn't really matter. And I try to stay kind of in a uniform on mine. I like putting a lot of gears. I do put smaller parts to kind of fill in, but I prefer having gears. And like I said, it's just tedious work. Stuff you can barely see with the naked eye. Starting to get glue on the end here. Alright, so we have 4 on there. Let's do 2 more. And like I said, it's just, you know, just work at your own pace. Generally, I can glue maybe 1 an hour from start to finish. So, and that's if I'm hustling. Just turn the tunes on, get my mind right, and let it rip. And this is the worst part of the whole thing to me, is pressing out the gears. Stuff likes to fly everywhere. I got probably a whole pile of little bitty shaft driven gears. Like I said, there's a whole lot of guys that make the watch parts. I know a whole lot of them are doing some awesome work. I really enjoy Harry's. I also like a lot of stuff John David's doing. I haven't got to see much of Brian's live stuff, but I saw after pictures and they seem pretty good. And I watch Zach's videos quite a bit, and Jim Pratt still putting out some great stuff. It's a fun time to be a caster. I can tell you that. I've been around pins quite some time. Probably back about the same time Fred got into it. Makes us old. But casting has come a long way in the last 2 years. And it's just exploding. Only going to get better. Uh-oh. A little bit of glue there to clean our nozzle. Got 3 little more, so I like to do this on the back side here. And 2 smaller gears and a bigger gear. Now the fun. For the spots in between the gears, I like to use little bitty stuff. I think it just gives it that one more appeal to it.